Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I am so grateful that you are here. You can clearly hear in my voice that I have lost it. And I actually I don't really feel sick, but I think the stress and grief of the past week have just caught up to me. So I apologize. This is the best it's been actually the past probably about 3 to 4 days. It's just been squeaks. Like when I go to talk, it's just squeaks. I can't even get words out. So today I can actually speak in a way that people can at least somewhat understand what I'm saying. I just want to thank you so much for your overwhelming support and kindness and prayers and condolences and messages and just the support that so many of you have poured out onto me and my family in the wake of my cousin Meredith's very unexpected and sudden death last Sunday. So it's been a week and a couple of days since she died, and I went to North Carolina over the weekend to attend her funeral, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It was absolutely devastating to see her two sons and her husband, her parents, my uncle and my aunt, her sister Caroline, who's my cousin closest in age to me, so we were always really close, and so Meredith was always like a big sister to me. And Caroline's about 20 weeks pregnant with her first child, a little boy who's due in March. And just overwhelming grief and devastation from all sides. But there's definitely a reason why funerals have been a part of virtually every single culture from the beginning of time, because there's a lot of peace and the beginnings of healing that come from being all together in one place, and being with my entire family, of which on my mom's side there are so many of us. My mom is the youngest of 9 children, and everybody was there. My cousins, I have so many cousins, and it was like we were just this huge pack growing up. We would go to the beach every summer together. We did holidays together. And then individually, with certain cousins and certain family members, we did things. And as I said in my previous video, my Aunt Janice, who is Meredith and Caroline's mom, and my mom have always been very close. So we've always done a lot with their family. And it's just a devastating loss, just truly a devastating loss. But being all together and mourning and grieving together and sharing stories and laughing about all the fun times we've had with Meredith, and just all the shenanigans we got up to as children and everything is extremely healing. And just very cathartic. So I'm really glad that I went. It was a pretty overwhelming endeavor to get out there. I flew out Friday afternoon, and then I had to go rent a car, which was this huge ordeal. I guess there were some conferences in the Raleigh area or something, because man, that line was out the door and around the corner. I finally got the car, and it was like there were all these problems with it. But anyway, I ended up getting to the hotel that night, and I went out to dinner with my mom and 3 of her sisters. And they had been there all week planning the entire funeral, because the immediate family, of course, was in such shock that they really were not able to make decisions. So my mom and her sisters stepped in and just did absolutely everything. They did an amazing job. They are just so emotionally drained, obviously, and physically drained from planning such an important significant event in just a few days time, but they did a beautiful job. And so we went out to dinner and then got some sleep, and then the next morning with those same sisters and my mom, we ran around getting all the last minute things, the flowers, and if you've ever been a part of planning a funeral, there's a lot to do. Oftentimes they are as big, if not larger, than like a wedding would be, and yet you plan them in days instead of months or years, and so it's just a very overwhelming thing. And Meredith was an incredible hostess, and loved people to gather and loved parties and loved throwing events, and so we wanted to honor her in that, and so we wanted it to be just so, and it was gorgeous. And there were hundreds and hundreds. I mean, there had to be between, I don't know, maybe 400 and 500 people at her funeral. And there were another 100 or 200 watching the live stream online. It was enormous. I could not believe it. On one hand, I could not believe it. On the other hand, of course, Meredith would have like 600 people show up for her funeral. She was that kind of person. She just touched the lives of so many, and she was just like a sparkly ball of neon. You guys who have been following, my mom's personality. She had that same kind of personality, just a larger than life, silly, funny, life of the party kind of person. And that was very evident in her funeral. It was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful service. It was extremely Christ-focused. She was very, very involved in her church and in her small group, and very close with her pastor and his wife. And all of that was just gorgeous. And they picked out a few songs that she just absolutely loved, some Christian praise songs, and we sang those and worshiped. And it was extremely moving and extremely touching. And I thought the pastor did truly the best job I've ever seen at any funeral. I think partially because he and his wife are such good friends with Meredith's husband and Meredith, and so he actually really knew her on a deep level, and so he was able to really share about her in a really meaningful and personal way. And one of the things he said was so true and so impactful, and he was choking up trying to get through it. He said his son, the pastor's son, is named Shepherd. Apparently, I don't know this child, but I love the name Shepherd. And so Shepherd is on the same soccer team as Meredith's son Landon. And I guess Meredith's son Landon was like the all-star of the team, and he would like score all these goals every single game. And I guess a soccer game just a couple of weeks ago where they were both on the sidelines cheering for their kids. They were on the same team Shepherd and Landon are, I guess. I'm not sure if the soccer season is over. And Landon had already scored like 6 or 7 goals in one game. And he was dribbling, the ball toward the goal to score another goal. And the pastor was saying how all of the parents on the sideline that were rooting for Shepherd and Landon's team were all yelling, "Go, Landon, go, score, go, go, go," except for Meredith. And she was yelling, "Landon, pass the ball to Shepherd, give Shepherd a chance, let him score." And he was just talking about that was just Meredith's heart, and it was like she was this like dazzling, sparkling ball of energy, but she wanted everyone else to succeed too. And she wanted everyone else to have wins in their life too. And it's just so true. That's just so her. She was such a cheerleader for others, and just really championed other people and wanted everyone to have that same moment, and that was just a really simple but really sweet and impactful story that the pastor shared. So it was beautiful. It was just a beautiful service. The last song, well, we sang 3 songs. The first song was Old Church Basement, which is a really cool song, and I guess Meredith loved that song. And then another one that we sang was Lord, I Need You, which was extremely appropriate for the sentiment in the room. And then at the very end of the service, right before we were all leaving, they had the band come up and sing a song called The Commission by a band called Cain. And if you've never heard it, I will link it below. And it was like the most beautiful moment. Jesus felt so close, and it was just a really holy, sacred, tender moment in the midst of such heartbreak. So I'm so glad that I went. I always planned on going, ever since right after I found out she, had passed. I knew I would make every effort to be at her funeral, but it's also really challenging with 2 little kids and living across the country. But Riley just was like, do whatever you need to do. I will watch and take care of the kids. So I took my breast pump and I pumped for Colin while I was gone. I actually just pumped and then pumped and dumped. I just poured the milk out because I had plenty I wasn't going to try to bring it back with me. I had plenty in the freezer at home for him, which he wouldn't even take because neither of my kids have ever taken bottles. They want it straight from the source or they don't want it at all. But I wanted to maintain my supply because I want to nurse Colin through this cold and flu season because it's pretty bad this year. And just help his immune system in that way. And then we'll wean sometime in the spring or summer. But that's a whole other conversation. But that was something I've never had to do. I've never been away from a nursing baby. So I had to, maintain, I just pumped like 2 to 3 times a day, because he's not nursing all that often anymore. So that it worked out well. But, after the funeral, they had a very brief, a little reception. My college roommates came. They drove from a few hours away to come and be there for me, and seeing them and hugging them was so meaningful, and I was so thankful that they had made the time and taken the time to come. I really appreciated them being there and just being with them and seeing them and hugging them. And Meredith and I were in the same sorority, and so dozens and dozens and dozens of our sorority sisters were there, and that was so cool to see all of them and hug all of them. And I haven't seen many of them in a decade, since I graduated from college. So I wish it had been under different circumstances, but leave it to Meredith to bring all of us together. And so it was a really special weekend, even as it was just miserable and devastating and heartbreaking. And so now I think it's, one foot in step of the other every day. There will be hours of the day where I'll be, just engaged with my children and being okay. And then I'll see something or think of something and just absolutely break down into sobs. And I think that's healthy and normal as I grieve. And, I grieve for me and for our family. And I grieve desperately for her husband and sons and for her parents. Seeing my aunt during the funeral was so hard. No mother should ever have to bury their child. Ever. It was awful. And Caroline, losing her sister. And they were so, so close. And I don't believe, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. It doesn't say that anywhere in the Bible. In fact, regularly it says in the Bible that God will give you more than you can handle and you'll learn to rely on him. And like the whole everything happens for a reason. I don't know about all that. I think God is the author of life and breath and being alive, but the enemy comes to steal and kill and destroy, and we live in a really broken world, and things like this happen, and it's just so hard to process, but I can't imagine processing this without the hope of heaven. I can't imagine processing this without Jesus, knowing that I'll see Meredith again someday, knowing that she's with my mom. There's something that is very comforting about that. So, I got myself dressed today and like put on makeup for the first time because I just have been in such a strange mental space. And I do think it's a little bit helpful to at least feel somewhat pulled together, you know, so, that's that. But truly, I thank you guys so much. I just can't even tell you, like, every single day, dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of messages, and it means the world, and I thank you for that. So, I just wanted to check in and let you know, given the circumstances, we're putting one foot in front of the other, taking one step at a time. Your continued prayers for Meredith's family, especially for her sons and husband, are extremely appreciated, and for her parents and sister. And we are all just trying to stand in the gap and hold them up with prayer, even as we are brokenhearted ourselves. So if you are grieving this holiday season, I'm with you. I see you. It's not easy, and we're just going to do it day by day. So thank you for being here. I love you guys so much. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see you again very soon.